Hello ladies and gentlemen, Panzer here, and today I'm taking a look at Global Outbreak Doomsday Edition. Now, this is a game that just appeared on Steam recently, and it caught my eye for a couple of reasons, some good and some not so good. But firstly, let's get on with what this game actually is. It is a top-down strategy, sort of shoot-'em-up kind of game, similar to, in a way, to a lot of other games that you might see on mobiles. Yes, because it is a mobile port after all, so it is going to look very similar from that perspective. But is it a very good mobile port? It's also very questionable. The settings are going to give you most of the answers right here. Of course, there is a display setting, there's customizable resolutions, but with no apply button. Obviously, the team doing it has maybe less of experience with porting to PC. Those among us who have played on PC for some time will know what is the problem with not having a button to confirm your selections. Obviously I would demonstrate it right now, but it would cut off the recording, as I accidentally did earlier. So, of course, right now I have it in 1920 by 1080, which is the standard resolution that I play in, is my native resolution. So if I was to change this right now, it would immediately change the resolution, and that's not ideal. You want to be able to scroll through and choose the resolution that you want and not have it changed every single time. Most of us who have done this before will know how long it takes to switch between resolutions, and having it do that every single click can be extremely irritating. Next up is graphics quality. There's no further options other than presets, and it says fantastic, but don't be fooled. It is not anywhere near that. Audio settings, you only have two options, your FX and music volume, so I'm not going to bother with that. Now, input. Now, props to them, they have actually created a mobile port that has customizable controls. All these keys are rebindable, so if I want to, I can actually rebind any of these keys. However, they do not use the standard key naming conventions, so these are Alpha 1 actually refers to 1 on the top row of your keyboard near your W, A, S, and D, and not your numpad. Something that actually needs to be explained. Some of these also, it is not exactly clear exactly what they would do. You would think that something like grenade aim might require a button, but as it turns out, no, it doesn't. Also, all the references to joysticks down here appear to be standard naming strings, because the game does apparently support controllers. So if you use a gamepad of any sort, you are able to use it, but it does make use of these standard buttons, so good luck trying to figure out when any of them do. Now let's get on to the actual gameplay. I'm going to jump into... Also, it does this. Every time I get out of the settings, it takes some time for the main menu to load up. For whatever reason they decided that was a good idea, I can't really put my finger on it. Okay, we'll sort of continue the campaign. This is a campaign that basically just started, but it should give you a fairly good idea of what's happening. Right, so the first thing that you're seeing right here is this giant map of the world. Obviously not a very high resolution map. You can even right now see all the blurriness within the cloud map, and of course the actual surface itself. But what you're seeing right here is the actual strategy of the game, if you would call it that. Now when you first begin, it goes through a rather lengthy tutorial showing you how to do most things. And as you can see from the UI right here, it is set up for touch controls. And I have actually checked out the mobile version of the game on Android, and I can say that this has been updated significantly and adjusted for the different resolution sizes on PC. However, it's still suboptimal. Chief among which you might notice there is no settings or menu button anywhere on the screen. Reason being, to open the menu again you have to hit escape. Something that may not be immediately apparent. Of course, most PC users may immediately assume that either escape or F10 is your menu button. But being that there's no icon when there is an icon for basically everything else seems a bit strange, to say the least. I have it missing. Right, so the gameplay. Now normally, these green spots here would represent places where you can build a base. When you first begin, the first thing that you need to do is build a base, and you do that by clicking on any of the available spots going to the build cell menu like this, you see any of these spots and you can build a tower. Now it says tower because in the actual mobile version there are a lot of other types of bases that you can build. Most of these are forms of turrets. However, we build an outpost. After building an outpost, we have... I don't want to do that. No, I don't want. After doing that, we assign a helicopter to it. So I have this Jet Ranger here, which is what delivers the team, which you can see here is our crew members down here. And we can assign a crewman to that team. So these soldiers are the soldiers we control on the ground, which I'll get onto much later. So what we're seeing right here is the basis of gameplay. So, first things first, the world is getting infected by spores which are coming from outer space, and they're turning the world into zombies for whatever reason. Because of course they aren't late to the party, and we're not already oversaturated with zombie games to the point where we're actually moving away from them. No, that's not the case at all. So I have actually just cleared this city of Kinshasa, and it apparently requires cleanup. So hopefully I can send my team in and I'll show you what's what. Send 2. Now of course this all happens in real time, so this is a hark back to the mobile version of the game where after sending your helicopter to the mission or returning from a mission, you would have to then wait in real time for this to happen. Thankfully though, this in the PC port they have actually added a speed up function, so we can just click that until something happens. Why it's not just sped up to begin with is beyond me. After all, there doesn't appear to be any reason for it to wait. Those keen-eyed among you may also have noticed that this game does appear, at least visually, to resemble XCOM Enemy Within's world map, and it is possibly intentional that they are trying to ape that. Anyway, we will move on. So, we actually need to go and destroy a second meteor. So that gives me time to explain the main mechanic of the game and how the game progresses. Each of these meteors that you see are meteor crash sites where the spores are being distributed from. So we actually need to destroy them in order for things to happen, which, if you think about it story-wise, makes absolutely no sense. By destroying the spores, destroying the meteor rather, if you destroy the meteor, the spores spread and infect nearby cities, causing massive loss of life. These are actually healthy cities, currently safe. However, if you watch what's about to happen, we send the spores everywhere by destroying a meteor, and you can see cities get infected. So right now, the city of Madrid is undergoing evacuation as a result. This of course means we need to send our helicopters in. We can speed that up until something happens. Periodically, while we are progressing on the main story missions, of course, which are these infections in major cities, contract missions may sometimes appear, and this gives us a chance to advance in one way or another. Of course, these are basically the equivalent of side missions. Now, all these lines that you can see branching out from one of the cities is also the rate of infection as it reaches other cities. So once the lines reach there, they will infect the next city. Alright, now we get on to the equipping of the soldiers, and they are able to be equipped with various equipment, which requires research. Up here we have our research points as well as our currency, which allows us to buy things as well as to unlock new weapons and upgrades. And these will happen as you progress throughout the game. You will be able to upgrade them. And of course, as I said earlier, contrary to what the options menu may tell you, this is quite clearly not fantastic graphics quality. Indeed, this rather looks like a game from the early 2000s, and to be fair, it's something that doesn't even appear to run particularly well. Now, I haven't got the most advanced of computers, but I can say that it should run on this system a lot better than it does. It seems to get be locked to 30 frames per second. I'm not sure if that's actually the case. However, even under those circumstances, it does appear to stutter from time to time, and I am seeing slight strange movement in the character whenever it does so. But what you're seeing is the actual gameplay. This is basically it. Also, for one reason or another, the actual volume of this part of the game is vastly louder than most other parts of the game. Definitely some normalization was needed before this game was released. Also, what you're hearing is sound quality is not the best. They appear to be taken straight from the mobile version without any form of increase in quality or whatsoever. While they don't appear to be overly bad in terms of sound design, the quality of the sounds themselves are questionable. As right now I'm actually hearing some distortion in the gunshots. And the overall bitrate itself does possibly sound like it might be a lot lower than what you might be used to. There's definitely not high quality sounds by any stretch of the imagination. And there you have it. That is basically the gameplay. Now, this is a side mission, so some of the objectives are a little bit different, but ultimately, in the main game, the only difference from this and a normal mission is just that in a normal mission there are gigantic plant-like pods to destroy. And destroying those will end that particular mission. And that's it. The rest of it is sort of just zombies that charge at you in basically a straight line. And there's not much in the way of AI, and there's definitely not much in the way of strategy. But ultimately, is it any good? Well, it definitely isn't lacking in things to do, or is it? Ultimately, looking at the entire span of the globe, there does seem to be quite a lot to do before the game is actually complete. But being that it is basically a repeat of the same things, despite, I might add, the developer's claim of procedurally generated levels, in the time that I've played, I have yet to see much variety at all. Of course, different locations do have slightly different art, but ultimately, it's not the art that we're concerned with, it is the actual design of the levels, and unfortunately, they're just not that interesting. It does appear to be optimized mainly for mobile games, and even though this is not the worst possible port of a mobile game, there's still much left to be desired. And now on to the price. They haven't made the mistake of most other mobile games do and charge $20 straight away. I have checked the in-app purchase prices for many of the things on the Android version, and prices on there range anywhere from $1 to $100, as you might expect. And that is for a currency called gold. And as you can see right here, it does not exist. So thankfully right now in this current version, there doesn't appear to be any form of in-app purchases or microtransactions, if you will. But it's still early days, and it's really hard to say whether they will remove that entirely or whether it will be added later on. I have checked their Steam store page, and there doesn't appear to be any mention of it so far, so that could be a good thing. Ultimately, I can't score this game very high on its graphics, and its gameplay just feels very generic and ultimately not particularly interesting. So I can't wholeheartedly recommend this game, unfortunately. As far as mobile ports go, yes, this is not the worst example of one. But it is still very much an example of one, in the sense that all of the hallmarks of most mobile ports are still here, while they have included things like rebindable controls and customizable resolutions, and the controls are a little bit more responsive than you would expect from most mobile ports. Ultimately, there's just not enough game in this game to justify purchasing it, especially at the price that it is. Considering that it is basically a free game on Android platforms with in-app purchases, the price here of $12.99, ladies and gentlemen, is not justifiable even in this current state, despite the additions they may have made. So, is it any good? Pick it up on sale if this is the sort of game that interests you, but ultimately if I want a PC game, especially at that price, there are plenty of other examples of good games that I could probably pick up. And that's all there is to it. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Panzer taking a look at Global Outbreak Doomsday Edition, now available on Steam for $12.99 US, or your regional equivalent. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.